Hello there, welcome to Nubik Developer Podcast, episode 4 in beautiful San Francisco, all around us near the Golden Gate Bridge. Today was the second day of TrailheaDX 2018. I think we got a great day here. To me, I felt like the day was more technical, much more developer-oriented session.
Same for me.
At least that's what we attended, while there was next to none on the first day. So, Alexis, how was your day?
Was perfect. As you say, today I was focused only in developer stuff. Well, the whole session was dedicated to developers, and I saw interesting in some session that we can share with the team. And you?
Pretty good. Had a whole lot of fun. Visited a lot, talked to a lot of interesting people. I started. I think at 8:30 or the first session. We overslept this morning, so we got in just in time for the first session. I went to a session that talked about certification and trade-in. So basically, there's now Trail Mix about all the architect certification. There are regroupment of links, and they hook you up with the community. They give you all the documentation you require, and they give you how many hours it will require to read all those, and a few trade-out badge in there to get you ready for all of those architect certification, which is interesting. It got me back into the I want them all mood.
And also for the maintenance of the certification.
Yeah, maintenance, as we said yesterday, is going to be all in trade-out now.
Since when? Since now?
I think it's now. Like next certification round will try. What was your first session?
During the morning, I assist to a session about Lightning design system. I think for us it's important because sometimes we have to make some visual force but with the look and feel of Lightning. And I saw some interesting change that we can do to a specific visual force page with the old tags to make it beautiful and similar to Lightning, to the Lightning styles. I saw a new stuff on Lightning design system that we can share with the guys in the office. So
I know in Visualforce you got the Apex page, use Lightning style sheet tag.
But I saw a few tags that we can use to improve a little bit more the look and feel. All HTML tags that we can use, that we can use at the header and the bottom to improve a little bit more the look and feel, without change anything in the body of the page except the old page. So I need to test it to see how it works in another page. Obviously, in the demo always work well, so I need to test it a little bit more.
Great. Then I went to a session I was really interested about, but got kind of disappointed. It was how to do an offline app for mobile, how to do connected with Salesforce.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it seems so. But because it's a requirement client often give us, like I need to be mobile and we're going out of town and it needs to work even though there's no cell phone connection. So I was really excited, but got there and the guy just basically said you need to rebuild everything. So what the guy did was interesting, seems really cool, however it's a ton of work. So what he built is an Heroku service that sync all the metadata from Salesforce to a static resource on Amazon. He worked around with the XML to define his own style. He downloaded all the Lightning components, and then the app, when you log in, actually downloaded all that metadata and reworked it by itself. So all the formula fields that say he built an interpreter, is that all? I don't recall the good word, but he built something to parse the formula field and do it in real time on the mobile without relying on Salesforce. So if Salesforce releases a new formula or a tag for a formula field, they need to implement it on its own. And when we got to the database stuff, which was what was interesting me the most, how to probably sync and manage conflicts within the database. So if the mobile app is offline, update the records, but meanwhile somebody on Salesforce update the same records, how do you handle that conflict flawlessly? He said that he's holding off on this information for Dreamforce. So got really disappointed there. But basically it tells me that there's no magic solution to that scenario. It requires a whole ton of work. I think you went to a unit test session.
Yeah, I went to a unit test session. I was waiting something like you mentioned in the last year. I was expecting a session where they changed our mind how to build unit tests and how to build the code to be prepared to do good unit tests. But basically the session was dedicated how to do unit tests always, with the answer at the end, with the stop and test start and test stop. So it was a pretty basic session about unit tests. Not too much new info there for us. Obviously they insist and have an answer always and avoid big unit test classes. So if you want to build multiple methods, do different classes for those methods. I don't know, totally agree with that, because I think it's a mess to have for a same class multiple methods in different test classes. So well, I don't know, it's just my opinion. After that, immediately after that, I went to a session called Advanced Lightning Component. For me that was the best session of the 2 days, and basically because I learned there new stuff about the new Lightning base Lightning component that we have now to use, and this will save a lot of hours of work when we are building Lightning components. And also I learned how to improve the performance of those Lightning components to avoid queries, not queries, but do communication between the client and the server using the cache only with a single word. And we need to handle a small philosophy there, but it's not complicated to understand, and it's good that we have that knowledge.
It's mostly based around the Lightning force record tag, right?
Yes, was that tag, and also how to use the Lightning input field to render any field there, a pig list, a text area, everything, a checkbox. So it's amazing because before, at least last year, you need to build your own field. If you need a pig list, you need to put the pig list. If you need a checkbox, you need to put a checkbox. Now you can use the input field like the old tag, the Apex input field tag. So it was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
but for me, the most impressive thing was how to improve the performance of the Lightning component. So I think I will do a demo for the guys in the office, because it's important to have that knowledge.
Yeah, indeed. Lightning components are really becoming the hype. Like, it's where development is going, it's where customization is going, and now we've got a really great tool set with those. Because last year or a year and a half ago, when you wanted to do a Lightning component and wanted to access some data from a record, you needed to have your view in HTML, your client-side controller in JavaScript, and an Apex controller, and both controllers needed to talk to themselves. It got kind of messy, and now you don't even need an Apex controller. You just use the force record data, you push the ID of the record you want, and you have access to everything.
And even if the component that you need to do is basic, you don't need a client controller in the Lightning component, because the component will communicate everything with the server and fetch the data, display all in the screen, so in the view. So it was pretty amazing.
I think it even then handles the update message from other components. So if you got your component going and you edit a field somewhere else within your same browser still, it will update your component.
Immediately
the value
the view
will be binded without having to do anything on your site, pretty much.
And sometimes they also show us how to share code in the client-side controllers, how to share code between different Lightning components. And basically it's creating GS libraries, but there is a small change that we have to do, how we are going to call those methods, but it's not a big change, so it were really useful.
Awesome.
It was really useful.
I also went to a command line interface session, which is always interesting to me because I feel like most new developers kind of hate command line, but I grew up with it using DOS. So it's always a nice throwback to use command line, but it can be pretty useful when you probably know the command line. Basically, the Salesforce CLI is now within SFDX, so all SFDX is managed through CLI, and they just released a plugin framework, so you can add any functionality to the CLI that you wish. It's all based around Node.js, so you build a Node.js module that you don't need to code anything to have access to the Salesforce environment that you are currently working on, as well as the Salesforce DX project that you are currently working on. So if you want to build a command that will deploy between two environments, you have access to those without having to handle credentials or session header or login or whatsoever. It's all handled for you. It seems really powerful. It can also allow you to migrate metadata change. Really, you fit your needs. You can use CI in there to push unit tests and like run unit tests, see if code coverage is good enough. If it's not good enough, return an error. You basically build the flow you wish in here. Kind of noisy in here. Hopefully the sound is still pretty good. I also went to a session which explained how to move the any big environment to scratch org. It's always been an issue because if you just create a scratch org, it will be a blank Salesforce environment. So you need to push all your metadata there, and Salesforce DX kind of push you towards modules. So you need to build a single module that handle, let's say, account operation that need to be a module by itself. But right now in Nubik we have a bunch of customization around account in different classes and different triggers and everything. So it gave us strategy on how to achieve that, and basically is creating an account module with a selector class, and I won't go through all the technical detail because it was a lot. I need to review my notes to be probably aware, but it built a framework where any other module or project that you build, you can define dependencies on previous modules. So if you build a feature that requires account, let's say, you just build a reference to the account module that you have, and in here you can define, let's say, field set that will automatically update the account module to do the SOQL query with all the fields that you are required. So if you got your project installed, it's going to query those fields, but if you don't, it's not even going to bother, and it makes all the query dynamic and lightweight. I can't wait to dig into that more. But one thing is that this guy, it was a law firm company. They said they've been working on that for a year and almost a half now, and they're not done yet. They're like 30% done because it requires a rework of the whole environment. So the strategy, they said, to be able to dedicate time, because they don't want to stop development for 2 years. They still need new features to be pushed. So he said new features are definitely built in SFDX right away, when possible. But when quoting or evaluating new features, he said, I always push 10 or 20% more hours in here to be able to either work on another module a bit or make sure that I adapt what I'm building now for future proofing, for making sure it's going to work with my module. So it gave tips about naming convention and everything, so that you are ready to push to module later on.
The people that is working in that is a third-party company? Or
It was a Salesforce user, basically. It was a law firm company. There were, I think, 6 Salesforce developers working in their environment. They had like, he said he expect to have like 35 different SFDX projects to maintain at the same time.
Great.
I think that's all the session we went today. I didn't do a lot of booths, partner booths, but the closing keynote with our guy, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker.
What did you thought about that keynote? Alexis.
No, it was amazing. It was amazing, and was funny. Was I think
The guy's pretty funny.
the guy's pretty funny, yeah. But if you see, he was telling us his story in different moment of his life, but always with a joke involved in his history, and everybody was laughing there. So it was funny. Spend 1 hour listening to him. So impressive. For me, it's the first time that I saw that guy. I never met before, obviously. But I don't know if you
No,
you
first
came.
time.
Okay. So really impressive, really impressive. Seems that he's a normal guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what is always impressive. Like on first TrailheaDX, we've met with Steve Wozniak, and same thing happened. Like the guy was laughing, making joke, and seems like a normal guy. Last year was, I don't recall his name, but the writer of Lost, the TV series, and same thing. He exposed like his day-to-day life to some extent. And
yeah, it's normal people.
Yeah, it's
say
all
hello
normal
to
people.
everybody. So it's great, amazing.
And it's pretty fun also that it ends with something kind of unrelated with Salesforce. And before getting in the keynote, they gave us a beer just to take the tension off, because those 2 days are pretty intense. We really don't stop. We don't have for lunch, we walk with the lunch in our hand, trying to run to the next session or to
Exactly.
talk to somebody. We don't sit. And our feet hurts at the end of the day. So that keynote really set the mood down, and it's really cool.
What's a cool end of the for
really
the 2 days
cool
of
ending.
work.
Indeed.
And you, because you had come to the previous session last year and 2 years ago, did you find a difference between those sessions and this one? This was better. This was normal. This was
You mean the whole event, or just
the whole event. The whole
whole
event.
event? For sure, this year there was not a lot of new thing, a lot of announcement, because it's only been 6 months as they moved from autumn to spring. It's only been 6 months. There's still a few small features, but no, it's still the same kind of event where we need not to expect to be too technical. It's really just to hype you up, to learn about new stuff a bit, but also to put you in contact with the proper person. Like working with SFDX, we had issue with packaging too. It didn't work, and we had some trouble. So I talked with the SFDX product manager there, and now even though we didn't resolve my issue there for sure, I was not able to show him. I've got his email. We are in touch. We're going to communicate, and he's going to help me out. So now I've got a pretty good contact there. Same with the I said SFDX, but it was the packaging 2 guy, and I also got in touch with the SFDX guy. So I feel that's really the spirit of those events. It's not to go too much into code. A bit is fun, but really more to talk with people and get the mood of the event.
I did the same. I also spoke with one of the developer of Lightning Component. I think they have a team called Evangelists, so
Yeah.
they are all together. I was really impressive. And also I spoke with one of the creators of Lightning Design System, and he shared his contact with me. So I need to ask some stuff, because I asked him about the stencils. I don't know if you remember the stencils, when you are trying to load something on the screen and there is a small picture where what you are going to display in the screen a few seconds before the data appears. So I like to do that in some Visual 4 page or some component, and he told me that he will send me a message if that will be in the Lightning Design System page this semester. So I will wait his message. He told me that I also send him a reminder just to be in contact, and it's good to have contact with somebody that touch the thing that we use to work every day. So it was really impressive.
And also this event make me feel like we can have an impact on development or on features that are coming up. Talking with those guys, like they're open. And if I expose a few scenario with SFDX and Financial Force, and the guy said, oh, we didn't thought about that,
Exactly.
and just send me a screencast on how you use it, and we'll see what I can do with the project team, and we'll send you a bit of. So it's really cool. Also, two takeaways I had at the event that were not related to session, but still really interesting. First one, Salesforce Classic's dead.
Yeah. Good conclusion.
There's no point anymore in holding on, whatever the cost. I feel like we need to toggle the switch on everywhere and just cope with whatever happened. We still always can turn it down, but we saw, I think, no classic screenshot during the whole weekend at all. I saw one, in fact, and it was a decluttering session, and he said, like, if your screen looked like that, you're in trouble, and it was a classic screenshot.
Yes.
With the tons of fields. That's exactly our organization right now. And the second one, I think it was in the opening keynote, some words that struck me, or I don't know where I heard those, but when you build anything, it needs to be fast and responsive. And still, even if your process take a while, it needs to react fast. So it needs not to freeze, not to be bending, not to be a blank screen, not to be. The user needs to know that something's going on. So get a spinner going, make everything async, release the CPU as soon as you can. So any operation should not run in the UI thread to some extent. It's pretty hard to go properly with that in Salesforce, but using JavaScript, push everything async. And this way it will push adoption. Because if your component is slow, is clunky, even on the first release, user will keep that in mind. We had the same issue with Lightning overall. 3 years ago when we tried Lightning, it was clunky, got a bunch of error, and it told us off
Yes.
on migration. We didn't work on Lightning at all. We didn't plan the migration because we said Lightning's clunky, and we should have, because now it's working flawlessly, and we're stuck. We started migrating when it started working flawlessly, but if we will have started, we will have already been on Lightning years ago. So let's always make sure that things work fast, responsive, works on mobile, that works everywhere. Those are my main takeaways.
Perfect.
And that, I think we had an amazing week. It was sunny every single day. It was hot.
Show to the team the new Salesforce
sure.
tower
I don't know if
for Beliefs.
property. Maybe not. The biggest tower here is the new Salesforce tower. And you can also see Alcatraz there.
And it's now the highest tower on the city, the Salesforce tower. So.
Yeah. So, on that, thanks to everyone. Thanks to you, Alexis.
Thanks to you. That's amazing experience.
Great. Bye.